Hello everyone, this is Ann Hayward and welcome to my February video tutorial. Today's video will cover the paper towel background technique, and I have reused paper towels that I have used for cleaning stamps or blotting watercolors as my background. You're left with very vivid colors and provides an interesting background to your cards. Both cards today we're going to use the Wrapped Bouquet stamp set and the coordinating Wrapped Flowers dies, and they're found in the January-June mini catalog by Stampin Up. And this card here, the paper towel, is used actually for the background of the card. And in this card here, the paper towel is used, I stamped the image from the newspaper print right onto the paper towel. I have a collection of paper towels in my stash that I keep after I'm done with projects. I just want to share some real quickly. Here's one that is a very bright yellow and orange. Here's one that's a tie-dye, all different colors. And here's another one that's tie-dye, all different colors. And it has a really interesting texture, which adds interest to the cards. For today's projects, we're going to be using this paper towel, which has an assorted mix of pinks and yellows and a little bit of blues and purples. So let's get started. Let's get started with prepping the paper towel for your background. And again, this is the paper towel that I'm using, and it's 2-ply. So I am going to separate the plies. You only want to use 1 ply at a time. And you can save the second ply to use for another project. It's a little lighter than the first one, so you'll get a different effect. It's always easier to work with the paper towel if it's on a cardstock background. It's easier to cut the paper towel down to the size that you need if it's backed with something sturdy. It's hard to cut this with a pair of scissors or a paper trimmer. So to get it ready, I just add some adhesive to a piece of scrap cardstock. And this one is Whisper White. And I'm just using my snail. You can use glue, you can use a Xyron machine, adhesive paper, anything. You just need to get the paper towel attached to the cardstock. And I'm just going to lay it down and attach and kind of smooth it out with my fingers. And it's now attached to the cardstock backing. So now I'm going to go and trim this down using my paper trimmer to the size that I need for my card, and I'll be back. Okay, I have cut my paper towel down. This measures 4.5 by 2. It's got the cardstock backing, and I'm just going to attach it to the Night of Navy mat that I've already attached to the Blushing Bride card base. So that is done. Now I'm ready to put the other pieces of the card together, and what I did again was stamp the flower bouquet image using Mossy Meadow ink, and then cut it out with the coordinating die, and then colored it with my stamping blends. So that piece is ready. Now for the newspaper wrapping, I went ahead and stamped a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock in Night of Navy ink using this newspaper print stamp from the set, and I did that on one side, and then I cut it out using the die and my die cut machine. And because this piece is going to be folded, I want the back side to be stamped as well. So I've just stamped the back side, and now I'm ready to fold it into the wrapping for the card. And on this side there's 2 score lines, so you want to fold along the score lines so you have a point. And then there's a score line here that's going to come back, fold along that, and then there's a score line here, so you fold that part in, and then this little point here needs to be folded back. That's going to be the inside. And then this just folds back along that score line, and now you have a newspaper wrapping piece. Simple. And to hold all this together, I'm going to use glue dots. So I am going to use my Take a Pick tool and put a glue dot there to hold that piece down. And then I'm going to put a glue dot there to hold this piece down. And actually, I will put another glue dot up a little higher to hold that piece down. So now I've made my newspaper wrapping. I wanted to add some linen thread that is wrapped around this newspaper piece, and I needed to do that before I attached it to the card front. So I just added a little bit of adhesive to the back and wrapped the linen thread around 3 times, and so that's ready to go. And now I need to attach my tag, and I just stamped the For You image from the stamp set in Night of Navy, and then cut it out with the coordinating tag die, and I'm just going to attach it to the front. And then I tied a bow out of the linen thread, and I'm going to attach it to the top of the tag using a glue dot. So that is ready there. Now I'm going to attach the wrapping to the card front. And now I'm ready to attach my bouquet of flowers, and they're just going to slip into the wrapping like that. And I am going to pop them up with some mini dimensionals. Okay, I've inserted the flowers into the wrapping, popped them up with the dimensionals, and now I'm ready to add the foliage. And for the foliage, I just cut out an assortment of leaves using the flower bouquet dies. I cut them out of old olive and soft seafoam cardstock, and here's the stencils that were left over, which could be used for another project. And I am just going to slip these pieces with a little bit of adhesive on the bottom of the leaves, and I'm just going to slip them behind the popped up flowers. So it's just a matter of building the background, and you can add as many leaves as you want. Kind of just go for it. Okay, I've added the leaves, and I'm ready to complete the card. I'm just going to add some enamel dots to the background to help fill in some spaces. Let's put that one there. I never know where to put the dots. Sometimes that's the hardest part of creating these cards, is figuring out where to put the embellishments. And there we go. It's done. It's got a lot of texture with the paper towel background. It's got a lot of color, the tie-dye effect. It's got a lot of dimension here with things being popped up, and the addition of the tag and the bow. So a really fun card, a great way to recycle and reuse your paper towels. So don't throw them away. Let them dry out after you finish cleaning your stamps or blotting watercolors. Lay them flat, let them dry, and then save them, and you can use them for backgrounds. So on to the next card. Now we're ready to move on to our second card, and I'm going to stamp the newspaper wrapping image onto my paper towel background. So I went ahead and prepared the background. I've attached the paper towel, one ply, to the cardstock backing, and then I've trimmed it down to the size that I'm going to be working with. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp the flower image for the bouquet, and I'm going to use my Stamparatus because I want a nice dark stamped image, and I'm going to be using Old Olive, and I only want to ink up the flower part of the image. But if I also ink up the wrapping part, it's okay, because this will be cut away from the wrapping. I'm only going to use the flowers for this part. That's pretty good. I've got a good stamped image of the flowers, and now I'm going to color them using my Stampin' Blends. Okay, I've colored my flowers with my Stampin' Blends, and I've separated it from the newspaper wrapping part, and now I need to stamp the wrapping, and I'm going to stamp it on to the paper towel. And again, I'm using the Stamparatus, and I'm trying to only ink up the wrapping part, but if I get the flowers above, that's okay, because I'm just going to separate the images. And you definitely want to use the Stamparatus for this because of the texture of the paper towel. You need to keep inking and stamping so you get a nice good image. And it's going to take a couple, maybe 3 or 4 inkings to get the image onto the texture of the paper towel. I'm getting there. It's looking good. And that's pretty good. So now I have the stamped image there, which I will separate. I'll cut that part out using the die, or at this point I could just use a pair of scissors because it's a pretty straight edge around the wrapping that I need to cut. Okay, I've cut the newspaper image out like I did with the card before. I've wrapped some linen thread around it, and I've put some mini dimensionals on the back because I'm going to pop these images up. Here's the flower image that has been colored with the Stampin' Blends, and to tone down the white just a little bit on this, I'm going to sponge on a small amount of petal pink just to soften the white. I'm just using a Stampin' sponge. And I've also put dimensionals on the back as I'm going to pop this part up too. So let's go ahead and put this card together. Like that. And I also stamped the greeting on a piece of just scrap Whisper White using Mossy Meadow ink, and punched it out using my 1-inch punch, and then matted it to a 1 1/4 inch piece of Mossy Meadow. And that's going to be popped up too. And I also tied a bow out of the linen thread. And I'm going to attach it using a glue dot. And now I'm ready, like I did with the first card, to add my foliage around the image. So I will do that, and we're about done with this card. I've added my foliage, and now I'm ready to add the final touch, which is just a heart embellishment. Enamel dot from my stash. And there it's done. The paper towel is the background for the newspaper wrapping. And again, the paper towel is the background for this card here. So don't throw your paper towels away. Keep them for interesting backgrounds in your crafting projects. Thanks for watching. Bye.